Hello. Hope everyone's doing well. I asked my wife, I need content for my class, and I asked her, "Do you think meditation has made me any funnier over the years?" And she said, "Yeah, probably, but looks aren't everything." Um, hey, my name is Dr. Asatar Bear, and I'm a professor of economics and a meditation teacher, and I teach this class each week, 7 o'clock Tuesday nights. It's a course in heart rhythm meditation. So I always start at the beginning. What is this method of meditation? Just explain it briefly, and then try it out. So you see what is this. So this kind of meditation, you really focus on your breath, and you were trying to perfect the breath, to make the breath optimal. So I think of that as having five parts. So, I should say before we even get to the breath, we want to have a good upright posture. All right. So that's important because we want to be both energized and relaxed at the same time. Um, and this is a little bit unusual, right? Because most of the time when we're energized, we are doing stuff, right? We're not being still. We are, in action, right? Versus when we are relaxing, we're not doing stuff, right? We're just chilling, right? So we want to be active in our energy, but be relaxed in terms of the expression of that energy. Okay, so upright posture means having your back straight, but not like rigidly so, right? Not so that you're like under tension like this, right? You want to be upright and relaxed at the same time. All right. So this also helps with your breathing, right? A lot of times when we kind of slump down or whatever like this, we're like compressing a lot of the front of our body, right? Where a lot of the breathing takes place, the breathing mechanism. So what are these elements of optimal breathing? Um, well, first of all, we want to be breathing deep down so that the abdomen is moving a lot, right? So sometimes it's called belly breathing or abdominal breathing or diaphragmatic breathing. So when you breathe in, you want your belly to expand. And when you breathe out, you want your belly to contract, right? That's simple. So it's a very natural way of breathing, right? We do this. It has we do it naturally, usually when we're sleeping. You watch babies, children, very natural style of breathing. They always have a lot of good movement in their belly. Um, we tend to lose it over time, especially if we get kind of stressed, right? We're always like armoring ourselves. We're armoring. Just control ourselves or whatever, control the abs and all this. So we don't. A lot of times we don't let the breath have that movement. We don't let it be deep in our body. It's very important to breathe in the abdominal region. It triggers the part of your nervous system, your autonomous nervous system, that gears your body towards relaxation. So, famous researcher on meditation, Herbert Benson, called this the relaxation response. All right, so it's the activation of the parasympathetic nervous system, which is the the relax, the chill. This is a time for your body's rhythms to slow down. So your heart rate slows down, your blood pressure drops, your body releases certain hormones, anti-stress hormones, and so on. So that's important, right? We want to activate that because our lives are pretty stressed a lot of the time, right? I mean, that's modern life. A lot of time we're stressed. So we want to just quickly, if we can, it's not like where a gun goes off, oh, all of a sudden relax, right? But we would love for this to happen, right? We want the physiological response to, help us with the mental and emotional, all of this, right? Uh, Settling down, because that's part of what we'd like to happen in meditation, right? We'd like to help us. to de-stress. Okay, so that's one element. Another element is making the breath smooth and even and rhythmic. All right. So, what does this mean? A lot of times our breath is arrhythmic in one way or another. Okay. So, what that means is that there's a pattern to breathing, there's inhalation and exhalation, right? And what we'd like is for that pattern to be continuously repeated, right? To be a stable rhythm, like music or something like this, right? We want it to have a flow to it. Okay, you breathe in, you breathe out, right? Like this. A lot of times, though, our breathing cycle unconsciously becomes arrhythmic. It becomes interrupted. It's very common for one side, either the inhalation or the exhalation, to be longer than the other. And then that means the other side has to be more intense in order for the same amount of air to be exchanged, right? So, very, very common, right? We want to smooth out our breathing cycle. We want to make it even and we want to make it rhythmic. This pattern, this rhythmic breathing, it turns out is very good for your heart. It causes a regular speeding up and slowing down of your heart rate. This is called heart rate variability or HRV, and it's very healthy for your heart. In fact, heart rate variability is one of the key indicators that doctors look at, right? They just say, is your heartbeat, as you're just sitting there breathing, is your heartbeat speeding up and slowing down, right? Turns out if it's not, that's very problematic. That's associated with all kinds of negative outcomes for your heart. So we want good, strong hearts, right? I mean, we want good heart rate variability. And this is what rhythmic breathing does. It causes your heart to slow down and speed up in a rhythmic pattern. And again, that's important for all kinds of reasons. When you have that pattern, by the way, the slowing down and speeding up is called respiratory sinus arrhythmia. I know that doesn't sound like it would be a good thing, but it is. It's a good thing to have. So it's associated with healthy lifestyle, right? Healthy people have this, children have this, athletes and so on, right? So uh, it's not good for your heart to be always beating at exactly the same rate, right? So even if your resting heart rate is on average, whatever it is, let's say 60 or 70 or whatever it is, on a beat to beat level, it's always speeding up and slowing down. So it is very rarely is your heart ever totally still. Okay. Why does it do this? I mean, I don't know the exact answer to this, right? I don't know if anybody does, but it seems like your heart is always trying to figure something out, which is, should I be speeding up right now or should I be slowing down right now? Right. So, your heart is kind of, going through this, right? Because when you need to respond to an emergency, your heart rate shoots up like that, right? I mean, your heart is incredibly responsive to an emergency, which thank God, right? I mean, like, what if you needed to all of a sudden run from a bear or something like that, right? Uh, you know, you need your heart needs to be ready for that, right? So that's that gearing up process, right? But our hearts can't beat 200 beats a minute all the time, right? I mean, we're going to wear ourselves out. So our hearts also need to have the ability to relax, settle down, right? You don't need that kind of activity right now, right? And so your heart actually has neural cells in it, right? Brain cells are in your heart just for this purpose, just to figure out, okay, should I be speeding up? Should I be slowing down? Right. Um, so totally steady heart rate's not what we want. And you might notice this, if you practice this method, you might actually notice that your heart rate slows down and speeds up. You can measure it with a machine, but all right. So, well, we've got deep, we've got rhythmic. Uh, we want to make the breath slow as well. All right. So, slowing down the breath is important because it slows your rhythm down on every level. Right. And again, we want this because modern life, there's a lot of stuff coming at us, right? I mean, our minds are always going, right? We're always having to deal with something, right? Our fight or flight response, this is the sympathetic nervous system, often gets kind of stuck on, like an alarm that never really goes off. Maybe it gets a little quieter, right? But never really goes off. So that's a problem, right? I mean, a lot of us deal with this, right? We have anxiety, we have racing thoughts, or we can't slow down. We have trouble relaxing, right? So we by slowing the breath down, this incredible thing happens, which is you actually slow the rhythm of your body down very, very quickly. It happens pretty quickly. So that's good, right? Again, if we're going to take time out and spend it in meditation, we would like to have it to have some effect on us, right? I mean, we would like to be de-stressed, right? We would like to settle down quickly if possible. Now, you know, in the past, these things were not as much considerations. Okay, so meditation usually, it's classically it's taught you just sit for long, long periods of time, right? No one focuses on, oh, make this happen quickly or whatever, right? I mean, like, God, the arrogance of somebody coming in and saying, well, is this working quickly? I mean, no, right? You have to study it for months and years and whatever, right? So, you know, the other, because these things will tend to happen, right? The things that I'm talking about, if you sit for a while, this is gonna tend to happen. You sit for a long time, your breath is gonna settle down into your belly, right? Um, your breath is gonna slow down. You're gonna relax. The tension is gonna fall off of you, right? So by training your breath and trying to make this happen, consciously, you're doing the things that are going to happen anyway, right? Um, with a comment like this, oh, your lectures are great, but they unveil too many stressful things present in the world. Yeah, that's true, right? That's the hazard of looking deeply at what's going on in the world. You can get more stressed by it. Yeah. Um, so then you need to meditate. You need to meditate to relax from your from what you've learned, right? um, so okay. So we got deep, we've got rhythmic, we've got slow. Now, if you want to go further with this, okay, so this is all stuff that happens naturally as you relax. Now there's another aspect to it which is not going to happen naturally, okay? And this is making your breath bigger, stronger, fuller than it normally is, okay? We normally only breathe and use a pretty small fraction of our lung capacity. Uh, and most of this just it happens unconsciously, right? There are muscles in your body which will work even without your conscious activity, right? Like your heart has this kind of muscles. You don't have to be conscious of them. You don't have to try to make your heart beat, right? It just does it. So there's muscles around the breathing mechanism that are like this as well, right? However, that kind of activity, which we normally do, we do that when we're sleeping, right? We do that anytime we're not paying attention to our breath. Our breath's on autopilot. That's great. That keeps us alive. Thank God. We don't have to think about our breath every single second, right? Um, but the consequence of that is that breath is probably going to be fairly small, all right? So, what does that mean, fairly small? It means probably somewhere in the range of 2% or maybe 10%, something like this, of your voluntary lung capacity. So 2 to 10%. Okay, you're not using very much of your breathing capacity then, right? There's a lot more that you could do. So this is what we call the full breath. Okay, and it's a training. It's something that's it's going to take work to learn how to do it, right? And the way that you do it is you breathe, focus on breathing out more. Okay, you contract your abdominal muscles, squeeze out all of the breath, and then allow your belly to expand. And then you have to go beyond just your belly. You got to bring the breath up into your chest. Okay, this is called thoracic breathing. We don't want to just do that, right? That's the kind of normal or stressed out type of pattern, like, oh, I'm breathing just high up in my chest is like that's we don't want that, right? We want to first breathe fully into the belly, right? Expand that, and then keep the breath going all the way to the top. Okay. And so again, that's hard to learn. I'm just being honest. And it's not going to happen automatically. If you sit all day, you're not all of a sudden going to be breathing fully. You will breathe fully if you learn how to breathe fully, right? But there's a lot of benefits to doing this training. Um, uh, and it's also work. I'll admit that, right? It's not you might not feel every second like it's going to feel like, wow, I'm putting the work in, but it's also going to feel very energizing because breath is life, right? If you breathe more, you're literally taking in more vitality, right? I mean, the medical term for this is vital capacity. So, I mean that the doctors are onto something. They understand, right? Your capacity for breath is your capacity for life. Exactly the same thing that the Sufis say, right? So, this method of meditation I'm describing, heart rhythm meditation, this comes out of Sufism. This is the esoteric side of Islam, the mystical side. Uh, it's a tradition that's been around for a long time. Some even say that it's much older than Islam itself. So, that's the roots of this method that I'm describing. There's lots of different spiritual practices and kinds of meditation in Sufism. It's not the only one, uh, but it's one that I've practiced and taught for many years, and it's worked well for me. So that's why I share it with you. Um, so, and then the last element of this, or that brings it together, is to make your breath heart centered. Okay. So that means that you're focusing on your heart. Okay. What we mean by that, your heart chakra, your your spiritual and emotional center. Okay. Um, and the way that we have of doing this, it really brings everything together, right? Is to focus on your physical heart beating and bring that into sync with your breath. Okay. So that helps you, right, make your breath do all the other things that I mentioned, right? It helps you make your breath slow. It helps you make it rhythmic because you're counting out the beats on the inhalation, on the exhalation. It can help you make it full as well, although that's going to take concentration. That's going to take some time. Um, all right, so now that I've described this a little bit, let's try it out, okay? So that you have a little bit, you get a chance to experience it. Okay, so you want to sit up straight. Um, I don't know what you guys are doing, obviously, right? So I'm sitting in a chair. You can see this, right? But I'm sitting in such a way so that my knees are a little bit lower than my hips, and I can maintain a good upright posture. Okay, and you can put your hands on your thighs, either with the palms up or down, either way, whichever you find more comfortable. You want to just check on your head position, make sure that your head is not too far forward, right, or not angled in a strange way or whatever, right? Try to just feel like that there's a center line of your body, there's a string that goes right through, right, and lifts you up like this. Okay. So that's the posture that we're looking for. And you tune in to your breath. Feel your belly expanding as you breathe in. You might take your hand and just place it on your, you can feel that motion happening. You should feel a fair amount of movement happening in your belly. All right. So you breathe in and you feel that belly expand just like a balloon. And you breathe out, you feel it contracting. This is a basic building block, okay? So if this is all that you're able to do, I'm going to give you lots of different steps in this, right? If all you take from it is this, that's pretty good, right? Sit up straight, put your hand on your belly, breathe, and feel your belly rising and falling. There's something very soothing about just having your hand on your belly and feeling that movement happen. Now we're going to work on slowing down the breath. All right. So by slowing down the breath, you're exerting control over your breath. So you're going to squeeze your abdominal muscles as you breathe out, and you're going to keep them energized as you breathe in so that the breath doesn't come in all at once, but that it happens slower. Okay? So you're drawing out your breath a little bit so that it's not as rapid. It takes longer per breath. All right. Now notice how long it takes you to breathe in and how long it takes you to breathe out. And at first, you just start by trying to make those the same, just in your mind, right? About how long is my inhalation and about how long is my exhalation. Try to make them the same. And you just watch your breath and just notice, is there any place that my breath is hanging up, that it's getting interrupted, that there's some pause somewhere. We don't want that, right? We want to smooth it out, make it even and rhythmic. You might visualize a swinging motion, like as you're breathing out. It's like you're on a swing. Let's say a swing that has a real long couple of ropes on it, right? So it's got a long period. You go back and forth, right? Just as your breath goes in and out. All right. So sometimes that visualization helps you because again, we want the breath to have a nice, even rhythm. All right, now you go a little bit further with this and start to squeeze your abdominal muscles even more on the exhalation. Squeeze out all the breath. See if you can go further than you've gone before. And breathe all the way in. Working on making the breath full. Controlling the breath is developing self control, self mastery on a very fundamental level. And the last element, feel your heartbeat. You might want to take your fingertips and just press them lightly against your breastbone. And if you're having trouble feeling your heartbeat, then lightly pressing like this, you might feel it in your fingertips. If you don't like that one, you might put your hand flat. You might try that. It's got a different energy to it, but by having your hand on your heart, your hands are places where your energy goes, right? We a lot of times we use our hands, right? So by putting a hand on the heart, you can even put two. You're sending a signal, right, to your unconscious mind, to yourself. It's like, pay attention here. Make the breath heart-centered by feeling that it's your heart that is breathing. All right. So the air part of your breath, that's one part of it, right? Of course, that's going to continue to go through your nose, right? But the energy part goes where your attention is focused. So by focusing your attention on your heart, your energy is flowing there. Okay, as you breathe in, your heart is receiving energy, and as you breathe out, your heart is expressing energy, radiating energy, giving energy. And this is life. Our hearts are always giving and always receiving. All right, so we'll end our session there. If you're getting something from this, of course you can keep on practicing while I'm going to talk for a little while, but you can try this again at any point. We'll do another session in a little bit. Um, but what I want to talk about today, the last class talked about God, and we the practice of meditation is about the experience of the infinite, the experience of unity, the experience of perfection, of the unlimited, of the eternal, right? So naturally, right, this question comes up. Well, okay, how does this relate to a concept of God, or the whatever you want to call this concept? It's in many different religions, right? Religions look at it in maybe slightly different ways. Um, but how does this relate, right? So I spoke about this last class. You know, in Sufism, of course, you have a certain kind of picture of God that emerges. God has personal qualities, right? Like in all of the Judeo-Christian religions, right? The Western religions, God has human-like qualities, right? God has personal qualities. Um, God gets angry, or God forgives, or right. These are personal qualities, these are human qualities, right? In other religions, God doesn't is not emphasized, or that those aspects are not emphasized, or God is seen as much more transcendent, or something that cannot be understood by human beings. That is very different, right? So, like I was talking about last week, um, both of these are true, right? And every religion actually acknowledges this, right? Every religion, has some way of talking about, well, God has is both personal qualities, right, that we recognize, like human qualities, and an impersonal dimension that is way beyond anything that we can comprehend, right? That our minds, have a really difficult time grasping uh, vastness. Um, our minds are just not good at um, thinking about infinity. Our minds are good for thinking about the limited world that we mostly deal with, right? So how can we wrap our heads around the infinite, right? Um, and we can't really, right? We can't. We're not going to don't expect to understand this. It's it's like it's using the wrong tool for the job, right? Uh, but here's the amazing thing, right? The amazing thing is we can experience it. You know, we can experience the unlimited. We can experience the perfect, right? We can experience the divine. That's incredible, right? Um, and it's an incredibly widespread experience, right? Lots and lots of mystics and philosophers, and theologians, and people who involved in religion or not at all, right, have described this experience, the experience of first of all, interconnection on a very deep level, right, of feeling like you're part of everything. Okay, so wow, that's an incredible experience, again described by many, many people. But there's even something beyond it, right? So to say that we're interconnected, that's great, right? Like if we were holding hands or whatever, we're connected, right? But we're still separate beings, you know? It's like, okay, we're connected. Um, but there is also this incredibly widespread description, very beautifully expressed, poetically expressed in many different traditions, of something beyond connection, right? Of unity, that the limited self and the universe are not just connected, like it's okay, we have some kind of relationship, that we are one, as oneness, one being, right? Not separate, not dualistic, not I'm here, I'm over there, we're touching, right? Not like that, right? But oneness. So how do we wrap our minds around this? We understand ourselves to be limited beings. I mean, everything we know about ourselves, right, is limited. Um, what we think of as ourselves uh, is our limitation, more or less, right? So if one of the primary purposes of meditation is to train ourselves to cultivate the experience of unity, okay? So now in saying this, I'm going beyond a lot of like our, like I started this off by talking about stress and whatever, you know, will it help you relax and de-stress? Yes. Yeah, right. I'm absolutely. But, I would be remiss if I didn't say, right, that, you know, in Sufism, in every spiritual tradition, right, that meditation is seen as a lot more than that, right? Um, it's going to have beneficial effects along the way, You might not sit down, especially when you're learning this, you might not sit down and immediately experience the unity of all, right? It could happen, and because life's a mystery, it could happen at any point. But it might not, it might not happen for a while. Are you going to experience benefit? Yeah, absolutely, right? Um, so, this the activity of meditation. So, okay, in the grand scheme of things, right? We are training ourselves to understand the nature of life, right? The nature of life being, which is unity. Um, so, okay, we want to cultivate that, right? And how do we do that, right? We proceed by stages. Okay, the first stage is focusing the mind. Okay, concentration. So by working these steps that I gave you, right? Focusing on your breath, making it deep, making it slow, making it rhythmic, heart centered, all this, right? This is training your mind, okay? And I know I gave you a lot to do, and it's hard to like do all these steps, right? It's hard to retrain your breathing. I know that. But it's also good to do something hard. And here's why, right? Because our minds are incredibly strong, right? Our minds have been trained from a very young age by our culture, right? By school, by all this stuff, right? So our minds being strong don't like doing nothing. Like if you sit down and someone says, okay, just do nothing, your mind is going to be doing something anyway, right? So put your mind to work, right? How do you put it to work? Well, you say, mind, focus on this, right? Yeah, let me give you something difficult to do. Focus on your breath and make your breath different in all of these ways. That's difficult, right? And your mind goes, oh, I love it. Love having a job to do. Let me get right on it. Now, your mind doesn't completely love it, because it's like the minute you put your mind to work and say, focus, your mind goes, yeah, but what about those all the other things I could be focusing on, right? There's so many things I could focus on, and it's so hard to just choose one, right? Your mind is like I don't know, a wild horse that wants to run around and be free, right? And here you are putting a saddle on it and saying, no, take me here. So again, that's the benefit of concentration, learning that ability. Uh, that goes well beyond meditation, right? Of course, because if you want to achieve anything, you have to concentrate. So, fundamental lesson, right? That's where we start. Where we'd like to go next is we would like to go to what's called contemplation, or sometimes it's called the flow state, or being in the zone, or right? This is It becomes easy. You get it, you feel like it's just flowing, and you're very focused, but you're not you don't have the same tendency to get distracted. You're not having to like, oh, all right, it feels easy instead of feeling hard. And you might even not notice, right? So one of the characteristics of this flow state is that you forget yourself. You just become absorbed in the activity, right? So if it's breathing, if you're focused, if you're practicing meditation, it's like you're so focused on what you're doing. You get into it, right? That's the feeling that we're looking for, right? You get into it. So I hope this happens for you. It might not happen the first time. Let me be honest, right? Might not. Um, but it's something we're looking for. Okay, to get to the point where it feels like it goes from being hard and a struggle to focus, a struggle to concentrate, to feeling like it's flowing. Okay. All right. And then we want to get to the point, you know, again, it's going to take practice, might not happen right away, um, might not happen for a while. Um, but to get to the point where this opens up and becomes not just an experience of flow, but an experience of perfection, of the unlimited, right? Of eternity. Um, that we cannot make happen. You can't make that happen, but you can cultivate it. You can be open to it. Okay. So we can, one of the ways that we can cultivate it. So now I'm going to give you like a tip, right? So part of this is philosophical, right? Okay, this is what we're trying to do, meditation, and part of it is technical. Like I want to not just say, oh yes, this is possible, right? But also let me give you a little tactic, give you a little technique that makes that happen. Okay, so to use this, we want to we wanted to add an element that we didn't do in that first practice session, which is bringing in that focus on the heartbeat. I mean, I talked about it a little bit, right? I said if you put your hands on your heart, then this might help you to feel your heartbeat. What we know is that, um, just from teaching this method to a lot of people over the years, I know that about half of people that I've taught this to can feel their heartbeat, no problem, right? And the other half cannot. So, and they can feel it maybe a little bit or maybe not at all. Okay, so whichever group you're in, right? If you can feel it quite easily, that's great, right? If not, then you going to press with the fingertips. That's one technique. Put the hands there. Now I know having your hands like this for while you're still is maybe a little bit uncomfortable. I have I don't know if you can see this, but I have like arms on my chair, so I can rest them like this, right? Um, so that um, if you have that, that's helpful, right? Not, maybe just do one. That's a little bit less work. Okay. So these are different ways of, again, we're trying to make the breath heart centered. We would like to feel the heartbeat and then place it in rhythm with the breath. Okay. So now we also want to connect ourselves to what we see as the sacred, right? What we see as the divine, what we see as our highest ideal, right? So, what does that mean, right? Your ideal is your sense of what is perfection. It's what is, I mean, that's what ideal means, right? What is ideal? It is something that cannot really exist in this world. Um, it exists in your mind and in your heart, right? So we want to awaken ourselves to that, and we want to choose something that represents that. Okay. So think about this for yourself. What is a word that you feel connects you to the highest, the best, the, what that connects you to your ideal, whatever that is, right? Um, maybe you connect with nature. It could be a word that comes from a word from nature like forest or ocean, or right. Um, or it could be more abstract than that, right? It could be a word like all, right? Or even a word like energy. You know, if you tend toward the more kind of impersonal side of things, okay. So again, I'm proceeding in a different way than what religions typically do, right? What religions usually do is they say, "Here's what you should believe in." you know, we know this is the best. Here it is, right? And it's like, you're like, "Oh, I don't know. Is that right? Should I believe in that? I don't know. You guys, I'm not sure about this, right?" you know, so I'm not going that way, right? I'm not telling you what to believe in. I'm saying, think about it for yourself. What connects you to what you think of as the greatness of life, okay. It's going to be different for everyone. um, Now there are people who so I'm talking about these impersonal things, right? Because a lot of us carry deep wounds when it comes to establishment religion, um, now a lot of people don't carry those as well, right? So if it's a traditional religious idea or concept, maybe it's the word God, maybe it's Jesus, maybe it's Moses, whatever it is, right? Take that word and you're going to repeat it to yourself on your heartbeat as you breathe, okay? So what we want here is the sense that it is your heart that is speaking this word as it is beating, okay? Now, if you're struggling to feel your heartbeat, pretend, okay? Say the word to yourself in the rhythm that you think your heart might be beating in, okay? Maybe you feel a beat or two, and that's enough to keep the rhythm going, okay? So if you're feeling it, great. You use that and you repeat this word to yourself, okay? Maybe it's Buddha, maybe it's Allah, maybe it's, whatever it is, okay? I'm not gonna limit you. You choose your own word. All right. So let's now that I've described it, let's try again. Okay. So you take your upright posture, and sitting still, tuning into your breathing. And take a hand and place it on your heart. Make your breath deep and make it slow. Make it full. Squeeze your abdominal muscles as you breathe out, breathing out all of the air that you normally just kind of keep in your lungs. You're breathing that all out. And then breathing in, taking in new breath, new energy, new inspiration. Tune into your heartbeat as you breathe. And place your heartbeat in a rhythm with your breath. Now, when you're using a word, you're not counting in the same way, okay? So if I tell you to just count the beats of your heart and make sure that the number on your inhalation is the same as the number on your exhalation, like I say, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, right? That's probably hard. That's probably faster than your heartbeat. Sorry about that. But if I say that, right? Okay, you're 8 beats in and 8 beats out. Okay, so now you're counting to 8. If you use a word, you're doing it a little bit differently. All right. So because I was, raised with Sufism, and I connect on a very deep emotional level to the word Allah, but that's the word for God, Islamic word for God. So the word that I often use. So if I'm counting with that word, I'm going like Allah, 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 right? Now that's 4. Do I need to know? Am I going 1, 2, 3, 4? No. The 4 count rhythm is an easy one to count without counting, right? You just know. So bum, 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 right? That's okay. So groups of four is a good way to do this. So if you're breathing in eight and breathing out eight, that's two groups of four. All right. Now, is this work for your mind? Is this going to require concentration? Yes, it will. It absolutely will. So hopefully, that'll keep your very active minds occupied here, right? So, right, try that out. Repeat your sacred word on the breath as your heart is beating. You might notice what you're doing here is incredibly profound. You are repeating a sacred word, and it's coming not from outside. You're not appealing to something outside. You're not looking outside. You're looking within to a very deep and very fundamental rhythm, one that is always going, one that is always with you, right? That's an incredibly profound thing to do. You are looking for the divine within yourself. That is what mysticism is. That is what meditation is for. To find the infinite, the perfect, the unlimited, the eternal, the divine within yourself. Do not listen to what others tell you it is, but to find it yourself, to experience it yourself, to experience it directly. You don't need a special building. You don't need a special person. You have that connection within you all the time. All right. Well, so we'll end our practice there. Um, I'm. I have this. I don't know if you guys can hear what's going on outside, but there's a. I live not far from like a riverbed, and there's like wild dogs that live down there, and they're like you come by at night and they go yip 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 like that. So if you guys, I don't know if you guys picked that up, but yeah, that's one of the things I was noticing as I was doing this. Um, so I want to say a little bit more about what the philosophy here, right, within Sufism. So the Sufis are always very clear on this, right? Every person has a direct, immediate connection with the one being, right? With however we want to think about it, like you want to use the word Allah, you want to use the word God, you want to use a word like energy or whatever. That doesn't matter, it is what it is. We can call it what we like. Anything we call it is going to be a limit. Anything that we call it is going to not be able to encapsulate it, right? So, um, but we don't need a mediator. We don't need, like I said, we don't need a special place to go. We don't need any of that, right? We have this is who we are, right? Because that's the reality, right? Because life is one. We can tune into that. We can become aware of that anytime we like. Um, Now, we might not achieve the fullness of the experience. Okay. So, this is what I'm talking about, the experience of the unlimited. that is given to us by grace or not, right? We can't make ourselves feel that, but it does happen, and it's amazing, right? I mean, it's so something we like to be open to, right? We can say, I long for this experience. I loved it, this experience, right? I would love to know what this is. Um, and that's the kind of thing that makes it more likely to happen, right? If you say, I don't know, convince me, prove it to me, right? Like that. It's like, well, maybe, okay. But it's, yeah. And of course, if you practice with a lot of dedication, right? You ask a lot, okay, well, that also makes it more likely, right? Um, so we're looking for this. What is the kind of peak experience? Okay. Um, Now, if not a whole lot happens, that's okay too, right? All right. So if this is a key element, right? If the philosophy is one of unity, right? Um, God is not just some powerful being out there, right? God is all, right? Yeah, that stretches us philosophically. Okay. Okay. So, well, what is spiritual attainment then, right? Like, okay, so when say we have this experience, okay, that's one of the things meditation is for. But let's get bigger than that. What's okay? So great, I had this incredible experience. Well, what now? Well, we want the experience of unity to change our understanding, right? To change. Well, how do we relate to other people? Like it's one thing when we're coming at life, when we're understanding life, to be like, okay, you're out there trying to get yours. I'm trying to get mine. Stay the hell out of my way, right? Like that. Okay, well, that's a certain energy. That's a certain understanding, right? If I don't see you as separate from me, if I see you as another face of the divine, all right? Well, I might relate to you very differently, than if I see you as, well, you're just a competitor, right? Or you're separate from me, or somebody who's, trying to get theirs, right? So what we want is the experience of unity to mature us, right? To first of all give us a sense of who we are, right? We need that, right? We need to know I mostly understand myself as a separate, limited being. What is the purpose of that, right? If the nature of reality is oneness, what is the purpose of my individuality, right? We can't really understand that. It's like we're so focused on a part that we don't see the whole, right? So that's we need that, right? That's one of the things that the experience of unity does for us, right? It gives us a broader picture. And it's not just a picture we look at, okay, but it's an experience. And it's like any experience is going to be discounted. We can be like, oh, that happened. I didn't understand that. Oh, all right, whatever, right? But it happens again and again. It becomes more and more real, right? So that's what we're looking for. We want to cultivate this experience. We want to have it a number of times so that it then changes who we are, right, as people. That we can, that we, as we go through life, we're going through it differently, right? We're going through it with that understanding. Um, that will act in ways that are better, right? That will be able to, you know, um, well, all right. So yeah, hopefully you get the idea, right? Um, so, and this is what spiritual attainment is, right? That the idea that by having this experience of unity, it changes you over time. Okay, so this is enlightenment, illumination, right? It comes out of these repeated peak experiences. Okay, so now this gets into in Sufism, there's a certain role for a teacher, right? What does a teacher do for a student? Now, I want to say, not this is not universal in Sufism. Sufis also respect, like I said, you don't need anybody. There's a direct connection. So, do you need a teacher? No, right? You don't. And there's lots of Sufis who, just go their own way completely. They don't work with a teacher. The Sufi, like there's the kind of iconic Sufi is the Dervish. Like the Dervish is with a tall hat and they spin around and stuff like this, right? So we've seen images of this sometimes. Um, The dervish is a very interesting character because dervish means rags, like, and there's a grand tradition in the East of, the holy man who does nothing, right? Or a holy woman who, doesn't work a job. They're not part of society. They go off just to cultivate that experience, that pure, unmediated experience of the one, right? But there's another tradition in Sufism that says, well, okay, even though we respect that, we know that works. It is easier if you have a teacher, somebody who can show you the way, right? Somebody who can help you with some of the techniques, or even just help you figure out. Like, I mean, mind blowing stuff happens in meditation. It's nice to be able to talk it over with somebody who can actually, has had some of those experiences, right? They only need to be a little bit ahead of you on the path, right? To be helpful. So um, that's the role of the teacher. But now Sufis have a very particular understanding of this, right? To say, well, how can the teacher actually be helpful? Like, okay, they can talk things over, but the main way that they can be helpful isn't even that, right? It's not even the techniques, um, because I mean, techniques are dead on their own. You know, they're dead. It's just a set of ideas. What makes them come alive is a person, right? When they come alive in a person. You know, so the role of the teacher in Sufism is to be in that vibe, and then you can catch it with them. Right? Isn't that amazing? You catch it with them. You know, like, does that mean you have to do everything they say and you have to read a bunch of books and all this stuff? No, right? I mean, that can be helpful, right? I mean, I'm not going to put down reading books. I've read a lot of books. I'm not going to put that down. But that's not, again, that's the dead part. We don't want that. We want the living part. We want the vital part, right? And where is that found, right? You feel it. You know, you feel it. You can feel a person's vibe. I mean, like, you don't have to be spiritual or whatever to be. You don't have to be meditating. You can feel somebody's vibe. Like, somebody enters a room and they're mad. You feel it. They don't have to say anything. Or they could be happy. You can feel it on some level, right? Now, we've blunted that in ourselves because we're often around a lot of people, and we don't want to deal with their vibe all the time, right? So, annoying. So I'm going to stifle that part of myself, right? So part of the training, what meditation is for, is to expand that vibe, right? Like, okay, you have a calm vibe from de-stressing yourself, from cultivating the experience of concentration and then getting in the flow, and then the experience of unity. I hope, right? I hope all that happens for you. Great, right? That's fantastic. Well, now help others, bring that vibe so that others can benefit from it, right? That is the role of the teacher in Sufism. If you're going to work with a teacher, okay, I'm not saying that's an absolute necessity, but I mean, it's something that I've found to be very helpful, right? So I'm sharing my own experience there. I did not go the dervish route. That's not what I did. But again, I've been doing this for a long time, right? So, uh, now, what then is the role of this mysterious figure that we find in the religions, the prophet? You know, so in Islam and Sufism, there's two words for this. One is Rasul. So it's an Islamic word. This is used to refer to the Prophet Muhammad. Um, and there's another word that is often used, which is Nabi. So these are usually interpreted as saying major prophet and minor prophet. But, it's the same idea, right? What is this? This is nothing more than a person who has had this incredible experience of the divine, had it a lot, right? It's become very real in them, right? They have cultivated that atmosphere, right? And they, take it as their mission in life to bring it to others, right? So, you know, this is part of the philosophy of Sufism that says you can make a lot of progress in a very short period of time by tuning into a person like that, right? A person who has cultivated that experience to enough of an extent that they have that vibe, whether they're in it or not, you know? So, and again, this proceeds by stages, right? So, and by immersing yourself in that vibe, right? Then it's like a shortcut. It's fantastic, right? I mean, I've experienced this myself. If there's any shortcuts to be had, it's that, right? So I don't know if this is helpful. I hope that this gives you some kind of background here, right? Again, should you believe everything I say? Not at all. Don't believe a single thing I say, right? You should. This is stuff that if it doesn't work for you, throw it away, right? If it does work for you, then great. I'm happy to hear that, right? So, you know, and again, this is, I think, unique to Sufism, right? Sufism says whatever's useful to you, take it. What the rest, throw it away, right? It's not a package deal. It's not about believing a bunch of stuff, right? It's about what comes alive in you. All right. All right. So I try to keep these classes to an hour. I feel like I have more to say, but I'll leave it to next week. I'm here every week at this time, 7 on Tuesday night, Pacific time. If you have a question in the meantime, please message me on Twitter. Love to hear questions. If you'd like to support the show, I have a Patreon account. You can do that with everyone who becomes a patron gets a whole course in meditation. So thank you so much for joining me this evening, and hope to see you next week.